it keeps playing, it just fades out. Hi everyone, it's 1 o'clock British Standard Time here on IC Radio. I'm Jocelyn, the annoyingly prominent R, coming to you from the Science Media Production Masters Program and a poorly funded community production of the Pirates of Penzance. Welcome back to Science at 1 Redux, where we bring you science, news, music, and sometimes other stuff. We've been on a 2-month hiatus, but we're back. Last term, we all made fancy radio packages, and each week I'm gonna play one for you, and sometimes even two. Aren't you lucky? And when I can, I'll bring on some games and interviews and contributors, and maybe even some packages of my own that have to do with this week's theme. And then that's the zig tag. This week's theme is a very important holiday that's tomorrow, International Women's Day. This is the day where we celebrate the women in our lives, like my mother back in Boston, who is probably eating yet another bland, gluten-free breakfast and lying to my dad about how delicious it is. Good morning, Mom! This is also a day to acknowledge how far we've come in the way of women's rights and how far we still have to go. Personally, I am very thankful to be currently living in a country where I still have reproductive rights, and where for almosters, women changemakers, women artists, and the other women who inspire us every day. I'll be presenting a package of my own about the historic origins of International Women's Day, and we'll also hear a package by our very own Bella Johnson-Martin about women in STEM. So, do you want to practice this sig tag coming in? It's all good. Topeka, Topeka, bodega, bodega, bodega. She makes a proper cup of coffee in her copper coffee pot. This program in a poorly funded community production of the Pirates of Penzance. Is it one Redux? Yeah, so this is the sig tag. So that comes in after I say, and maybe even some packages of my own that have to do... I can't fucking talk today. And maybe even some packages of my own that have to do with this week's theme. And that's when you play it. Does that make sense? Okay. Do you want to practice that intro again? Again, it's a very short show today, so if we start late, it's totally fine. Of course. So yeah. Do you want me to start from the top? All right. All right. We'll start with the theme. Hi everyone, it's 1 o'clock British Standard Time here on IC Radio. I'm Jocelyn, the annoyingly prominent R, coming to you from the Science Media Production Masters Program and a poorly funded community production of the Pirates of Penzance. Welcome back to Science at 1 Redux, where we bring you science, news, music, and sometimes other stuff. We've been on a 2-month hiatus, but we're back. Last term, we all made fancy radio packages, and each week I'm gonna play one for you, and sometimes even 2. Aren't you lucky? And when I can, I'll bring on some games and interviews and contributors and maybe even some packages of my own that have to do with this week's theme. This week's theme is a very important holiday that's tomorrow, International Women's Day. This is the day where we celebrate the women in our lives. Like my mother back in Boston, who is probably eating yet another bland gluten-free breakfast and lying to my dad about how delicious it is. Good morning, Mum! I appreciate you. This is also a day to acknowledge how far we've come in the way of women's rights and how far we still have to go. Personally, I am very thankful to be currently living in a country where I still have reproductive rights, and where for almost 2 whole months this year a woman was in charge. And say whatever you want about Liz Truss, that is still longer than the US. It's a day to celebrate women inventors, women changemakers, women artists, and the other women who inspire us every day. I'll be presenting a package of my own about the historic origins of International Women's Day, and we'll also hear a package by our very own producer, Bella Johnson-Martin, about women in STEM. That's all between now and probably 1:45, here on Science at 1. But first, some highlights from this weekend's news. The Falcor, a 100-meter-high tech research vessel, set sail on March 3rd on a mission to explore hydrothermal vents and discover new organisms that live in them. The intended goal of this mission is to use these discoveries in an attempt to estimate how life evolved on other planets. The ship, previously called the Polar Queen, was originally used by the offshore drilling industry, and fitting it with scientific equipment took 17 months. The ship launched from San Juan, Puerto Rico. I've been there. Very nice city. Would recommend. Also, on a less fun note, avian influenza is surging both in the UK as well as mainland Europe in one of the worst outbreaks in history, with almost 2,500 cases reported in poultry alone, resulting in the slaughter of 48 million domestic birds. Scientists are attempting to move quickly to avoid another human pandemic, as H5N1 can pass from one species to another. This strain of avian influenza has been found in minks, seals, and other marine and aquatic mammals that have contact with waterfowl, and has even been found in 4 humans. Here's to hoping there won't be another lockdown. That's it for the news. Here's Rachel King with Dollhouse.
Woke up in a dollhouse, painted porcelain white, chained up to a Ken doll. But he wasn't Mr. Right. He said I wouldn't leave him, that I couldn't stand the shame. He never saw it coming when I broke the chain. And ooh, the walls came tumbling down. Ooh, the king just lost his crown. Truth is I'm not here to play. Yeah, Kenny boy, I'm not your toy. Watch your dollhouse blow away. 'Cause I've had enough, and I've just begun to rise above the system. No, they won't know what hit them, 'cause they've had their way without my say. So rise, 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 throw their dollhouse away. Time to come up with a new plan. We're sick of this fixed game. Your stupid frat boy come-ons sound tired, old, and lame. Yes, sir, you should be shaken. Consider yourself warned. Thanks to your brash machismo, it's a war with woman scorned. And ooh, the walls are tumbling down. Ooh, the king just lost his crown. Truth is I'm not here to play. Yeah, Kenny boy, I'm not your toy. Watch your dollhouse blow away. If you've had enough, then you've just begun to rise above the system. No, they won't know what hit them, 'cause they've had their way without our say. So rise, 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 throw their dollhouse away. Rise, 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 rise. A new world isn't easy. Our strength is forged by fire. We'll show 'em nice and pretty. We'll take down all the liars. We've had enough, and we've just begun to rise above the system. No, they won't know what hit 'em, 'cause they've had their way without our say. So rise, rise, rise. We've had enough, and we've just begun to rise above the system. No, they won't know what hit 'em, 'cause they've had their way without our say. So rise, rise, rise. Blow the dollhouse away. Blow the dollhouse away. Rise, rise, rise. Blow the dollhouse away.
That was Dollhouse by Rachel King. I did a cabaret with Rachel back in New York, and I listened to that song once 2 weeks ago, and it's been stuck in my head ever since. While many around the globe celebrate International Women's Day, a lot of people don't know what the holiday's origins are. I did some research on International Women's Day and its history, and found some answers I certainly didn't expect. So how did International Women's Day come to be? Let's take a look back in history. Before it was International Women's Day, it was National Women's Day, and it started in New York City. In 1908, 15,000 women marched along the streets, demanding shorter working hours, better pay, and the right to vote. Then, 1 year later in 1909, the Socialist Party of America held the first official National Women's Day. They made sure it was on a Sunday, so working women could participate. Various events attempted to unite suffragist and socialist causes. In Brooklyn, writer Charlotte Perkins Gilman, known for writing the Yellow Wallpaper, told the congregation of the Parkside Church, "It is true that a woman's duty is centered in her home and motherhood, but home should mean the whole country, and not be confined to 3 or 4 rooms, or a city, or a state." Then, in 1910, at an international conference of working women in Copenhagen, Clara Zetkin, a German communist activist and advocate for women's rights, suggested to make the day international. There were 100 women there from 17 countries, and they all agreed. Then, the following year, in 1911, Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland celebrated International Women's Day for the first time ever. In 1914, World War I began, but International Women's Day soldiered on. Then, on March 8, 1917, Alexandra Kollontai, a Russian feminist, led a massive strike. This women's strike was for quote-unquote bread and peace, and 4 days into it, Tsar Nicholas II abdicated, beginning the Russian Revolution. And during this revolution, the provisional government granted women the right to vote. It was the first time a major power in the world had done that. I say major power because women had been voting in New Zealand since 1893, but it was still a pretty big deal. In recognition of its importance, Vladimir Lenin, yes, that Lenin, of Russia's Communist Party, declared Women's Day an official Soviet holiday in 1917. In fact, for about 60 years, International Women's Day was only celebrated in socialist countries. Then, in 1975, the United Nations General Assembly finally acknowledged International Women's Day as a major holiday. They also recognized 1975 in particular as International Women's Year. Ironically, the second wave of feminism that was taking place during 1975 mainly originated from feminists finding socialists were really sexist. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them. But that's a story for another day.
Yes, I paid the price, but look how much I gained. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong. I am invincible. I am woman.
These days, International Women's Day has come a long way from its Marxist roots. But it's important to remember where it came from. And remember to never stop fighting, because the battle for women's rights rages onward. That last feminist anthem was I Am Woman by Helen Reddy. And a really fun fact about it is that it is most definitely not royalty-free, so I hope you enjoyed the package, because depending on how vigorous her estate is, it might not be online for very long. Personally, I think it was worth it. After this next song, we have another pretty superb package coming your way from the class of SMP 23. But first, here's War Song by Case Watson.
Fight or flee, where to go from here is all unclear. No one knows what the future holds. The cast and motel, only some answers to offer. A snake made screamers of the scoffers. Gray billows start to flood my eyes, and without guise my soul's exposed. ludicrous to find so pulchritudinous the beasts that dance inside of us and make rage look like art. They might think it calms a spell to say this fire comes from hell, but we know we don't need to quell the laughter in our jaded hearts. They can't read what we'll read now, and they can't keep all the wheels they've endowed. A rumble quakes as lightning breaks and fleets of flakes like banners unfurled.
That was War Song by Case Watson off her debut EP, The Banshee, which is available on Spotify and Bandcamp. I have a question for you all. When you think of a scientist, what do you think of? Is it a man? Despite women making up almost 50% of scientists today, the field is commonly perceived as male-dominated. As tomorrow is International Women's Day, a day all about recognizing the achievements of women, our reporter Bella Johnson-Martin has gone on a journey to find out what's being done to celebrate and promote women in science.
At the roundabout, take the second exit.
I'm on my way to meet with one of the country's leading advocates for women in STEM. That's science, technology, engineering, and maths. To get me there, I'm using the GPS on my phone, a technology we often take for granted and that you may assume was invented by a man. But in fact, there is an overlooked woman behind its discovery.
There's an amazing mathematician called Gladys West, and she was born in 1930 in Virginia, and she went to study maths at a historically black college and university. She then worked for the US government on the calculations that enabled GPS, so kind of sat-nav.
That is Jess Wade, a research fellow in the Department of Materials at Imperial College London. During Jess's journey in physics, she has been struck by the underrepresentation of people who do not fit the stereotypical image of a scientist, that is, an old white man. She decided that she wanted to do something about this, to change the perception of who is science and to get more people excited by science. To do this, she is collating information on unrecognized women scientists and writing their biographies on Wikipedia.
So Wikipedia is one of the world's biggest websites. It's the 5th most popular website in the world. And it's really our only truly non-partisan, democratized, open access platform for sharing knowledge. So I saw this potential. I knew the capacity that Wikipedia had, and I saw this potential to really, I guess, do something meaningful in telling these stories of scientists from historically excluded groups on the site. And so in the beginning of 2018, I started writing these biographies every day, and then I just haven't stopped.
Jess has written close to 2,000 biographies, with one of the most popular entries being about the founding mathematician behind GPS.
Gladys May West, born October 27, 1930, is an American mathematician known for her contributions to the mathematical modelling of the shape of the Earth.
You have reached your destination.
My own GPS has brought me safely to another Women in STEM campaigner.
My name is Anne-Marie Mafidon, and I am CEO of STEMettes and also author of She's in Control.
The STEMettes is a social enterprise with the mission to engage, inform and connect the next generation of women and non-binary people into STEM and STEAM. This stands for science, technology, engineering, arts and maths. Anne-Marie and the STEMettes showcase the diversity of people working in STEAM and place emphasis on herstory. This is the telling of history from a female perspective.
We don't have this idea of technical women, scientific women in our social norm. So this idea that whenever we think scientists, we think of dead white men with beards and nobody else. And so then that gets reflected in the stories we tell of ourselves, the things that we see in Hollywood, the things that we see in dramas, and also the stories we tell of our history. And so all of that then adds up to the fact that you might feel like you're the first woman in STEM if you have taken this path, or you're the only. Or if you're someone who's not a woman, you can't even imagine what that would look like for a woman to be technically competent. Whereas actually, that's because of the erasure and not knowing the herstory, not because women are not technically or scientifically competent.
My Women in STEM tour has brought me here to the Natural History Museum. Let's meet Leonie Bigenden, a learning volunteer manager in charge of the museum's new Women in Science tour.
We have 300 scientists that work here at the museum, and 55% of them are women. And visitors are always pleasantly surprised that it's over 50%. I think just the fact they come and learn that is inspirational in terms of, there might not be barriers to me becoming a scientist. I can do that.
The museum's Women in Science tour recently won the Marsh Trust Award for volunteers. The tour series includes space-themed and winter-themed specials, telling the untold stories of women scientists. One story in particular sticks in Leonie's mind.
One of our scientists said on the tour that, what carries you through is the passion. You can learn things, that's fine, but you need that passion. So we're trying to kind of light that fire, that we kind of recognise that some of the scientists have had a fire lit for them by other people.
With many influential institutions like the Natural History Museum and individuals like Jess Wade working to positively change perception of science and scientists, what is the future for women in science looking like? Here's Anne-Maria Maffedon of Stemets again, hoping to do herself out of the job.
I'd like for us to just close our doors and we don't have to exist anymore. That's what I'm looking to see. I don't know if Jess said the same thing, but there's only so much talking you want to talk about a problem. Like, I'm a technologist. We solve it, we move on, we go and do something else and face something else. Like, that's the aim, that's what we're doing. One way or another, we're going to do it. I think there's a lot of changes that we need to see systemically, but also socially, that we're wanting to work on. So whether this is making sure we're reflected in the curriculum, whether this is working with government to ensure that actually the depictions of women in STEM and scientific women and the telling of her history is something that we have embedded, something that we fund, something that we incentivise.
Equilateral, trapezoid, isosceles, tetrahedron.
I've never seen a mind like the one your daughter has. You have to see what she becomes.
In 2016, Hollywood produced Hidden Figures, a film telling the true story of the African-American women mathematicians pivotal in winning NASA's space race.
Obviously, I don't have the budget of 21st Century Fox, but I do have a laptop and I have the opportunity to kind of write on this incredible platform, which is Wikipedia.
There is no such film on Gladys West just yet, but Jess Wade says the Wikipedia article had quite a reaction.
So I put her page up in February 2018, and by May of that year, the BBC had made her one of their top 100 women in the world, which meant that there were kind of thousands of page views and clicks to her Wikipedia page every single hour. And then the US Air Force inducted her to their Hall of Fame. And then the Guardian wrote a profile on her. People started putting her in all of their incredible mathematicians lists and engineers lists, and a big shiny prize was awarded to a bunch of guys who came up with GPS. And everyone online was like, why didn't Gladys West win? And the revolution had started.
I think it's kind of really important to just show that these people, they may have been a long time in the past or in the recent past, but we appreciate them, we appreciate their work, and we remember them.
Wow, that was a really inspiring and wonderful package. That was Bella Johnson Martin marking International Women's Day with an inspiring report on women in science. Here's Case Watson again with For Me. that was Case Watson with For Me. And now we are lucky enough to have Bella Johnson-Martin here in the studio with us. Thank you so much for coming, Bella.
Thank you for having me.
That was such a wonderful package, and I felt so inspired by it, and just, yeah, so well put together.
That's the idea, to feel inspired. Yeah,
for sure. So you studied biomedical sciences, right? Biotechnology in undergrad. Mm-hmm. So did you feel going into that, I know you went to Edinburgh, did you feel like discouraged in any way as a woman, or deal with some, male classmates with certain annoying attitudes?
To be fair, I think because Edinburgh is like 60% female or something like that, so it felt very female heavy. But I remember there was this one time when like this German like biotech CEO guy came in, and he said something like, "Oh, I've been told by HR not to say this," and then the whole room was like, "Oh God, he shouldn't say what he's about to say." And then he started going on about how like, "Oh, I think the reason a lot of women aren't in the like top roles is because you don't push yourselves and you don't try." And the whole room, being mostly female, just like kind of like held their breath. But that's probably the only incident I really could recall.
Yikes, though.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, lucky that was the only one, but still.
Yeah.
Yikes. Wow. So anyway, in your own pursuit of science and science communication, who were the female scientists that inspired you and that you looked up to?
Oh God, I don't know. I remember when I was just in like sixth form, I did a piece on Marie Curie. So maybe Marie Curie. She's great. And then the people I spoke to for this were really inspiring as well. Anne-Marie was like insane. She's like a child genius. Like she did like A-level computing at the age of like 11 or something stupid. Like she's mad smart. So inspirational.
Well, she sounds mad smart. That's incredible. So what would you say was the hardest part of putting this package together?
I think probably constructing a story out of it, I suppose, because it was a lot of like individuals talking about, individual things and then bringing them all together into one like cohesive thing. But in the end, just by chance, like it was they actually all kind of knew each other, weirdly enough, by chance. And then like Anne-Marie mentioned Jess Wade and also Gladys West, and when she said that, I was like, oh, they know each other, and then it all kind of tied together.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being here, Bella. And to everyone listening at home, including my mom, hi. Thank you all. And that was Science at 1. Have a great rest of your day. It's a vague suggestion of snowing today, but it's still really warm.